2 Timothy chapter 4, I realized this morning that in verse 19, I had misread that whole thing. It wasn't that Priscilla and Aquila and the household of Onesiphorus is greeting Timothy, but Paul is asking Timothy to greet them, leading me to believe that Priscilla and Aquila and Onesiphorus were all in Ephesus, where Timothy was when Paul wrote this letter. I don't know that it makes a huge impact, but I can't believe I missed that. Well, anyway, now we're ready for the last verse, what we have as the last verse of this. To me, it's just a rich book, a rich letter. Verse 22, the Lord be with your spirit, grace be with you all. The Lord be with your spirit. I believe that we live in a world, and I think excuse me, I think this is true of the West. Well, I know it's true of America. We live in a world that is eaten up with materialism. I am not an anti-science. I'm not an anti-technology person. And I will say, our view post-enlightenment has moved us farther and farther toward an idea that says life can be explained by science. I don't think that's bad. I think the role of science is to help us figure out how does the world, the universe, my body work. The problem is that the tide of Enlightenment thought began. I don't know how it became. By now it is a tidal wave of philosophical thought that says science explains life. You don't need an unseen God. God, the idea of a God who is overall is nothing short of superstition. Put your faith in what science is discovering and don't worry about this God thing. Well, I know most people, if they hear me, talking in these terms, will just roll their eyes and go, "Oh, brother." Well, I don't care. Here's the thing. That is exactly what has gotten us where we are today. One of the things about materialism that is very appealing is do what you want to get what you want and don't worry about the rest. See, materialist, if you are actually a real materialist, you can't believe in the soul. You can't believe in part of this whole thing about not believing in the soul is you cannot believe in eternal existence. A true materialist believes, and in order to be a true materialist, I think you would have to believe that when you die, that's it. Because all you are is material. You're just stuff. Now, here's where I see this in my own life. If we lose track of the fact that life is not about stuff. It's not even made up of stuff. It includes stuff, But that is not the essence of life. And I get so wrapped around the axle of making sure all my stuff is where I can use it and get my hands on it, and making sure I can get more stuff. And then I have to maintain the stuff that I got, right? Yesterday, got in my car. We're having temperatures. Today it's supposed to get up to 107, and that's actual temperature. Yesterday it was only 103. I got in my car, started it up. The air conditioner came. No, it didn't come on. The blower came on, but it was hot, hot, hot air. And I'm thinking, oh boy, stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm so addicted to my stuff, and in this case to air conditioning, that I can hardly bear it when the AC isn't working. For crying out loud, I kind of want to just kick myself and remind myself, dude, you grew up until, well, I think the first car I remember my family having that had air conditioning was a 1968 Malibu station wagon. All the other cars, they had 460 air conditioning, right? You roll down 4 windows and go 60 miles an hour, and that's the best you can do. And it's not like we were living in, Alaska, where it never gets hot. I mean, we were in Kansas. Kansas gets plenty hot. Well, okay. I guess what I'm saying is, if we're not careful, we'll lose track of this very important fact that we are not material beings having a physical existence and making our way on our own. We're spiritual beings living in a material world. This changes, well, it should change my outlook. It changes what I am going to put my faith in, what I'm going to trust. It changes how I view final outcomes. And it changes, because of all that, it changes what I do and how I relate to the world around me and the people in that world. It's easy to, I'm just telling you my weakness. I don't know whether this is yours, but for me, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that I am a soul, and so are they. This concept of soulness gets pushed back and pushed aside often by modern psychology, where id, ego, superego. I mean, there is this psychological aspect of us, but it has nothing to do with the soul. Well, for 5,500 years or more, people have believed and acted on the belief that we are souls, that we have souls. Okay. So what is the soul? How do you define the soul? This is very difficult, in my opinion, because it is intangible. One of the ways that I see this, one of the things in life that I see kind of illustrates the difficulty, is I believe there's a difference between the mind and the brain. The brain is the material thing, the 3.5 pounds of gelatinous mass, gray matter between my ears, encased in a rock-hard skull. It has a wide variety of centers we're discovering where certain thoughts that stimulate behavior take place, where those thoughts originate. But that's different. Somehow that's different than the mind. There's a strong theoretical basis for the idea that the mind actually can command the brain. Materialists will, that kind of grates on them because for them, the brain is if there is a difference between your mind and your brain, it's the brain that controls the mind. I do not believe that. Okay, anyway. The soul, here's how I understand the soul. It is the essence of me. The soul is the deepest aspects of me as a person. And I suppose in that sense, the soul is my personhood. If I treat others as though they were a soul and not just a body with a brain that is messed up because they don't think like me, then I can treat them with at least dignity and respect. There's so many things about this idea of the soul. And men way smarter than me, especially a guy named Willard Dallas. Wow. He has he's at home with Jesus now. He was a brilliant philosopher. He was PhD. He was actually the head of the philosophy department at USC. He wrote a book called Renovation of the Soul. It's pretty deep waters, but if you want to go more deeply into it, I'd say that's probably the best resource. Paul writes, "The Lord be with your spirit." I think that the essence of that idea is Paul's desire is that Timothy and the whole church at Ephesus, because next time I'm going to give you my idea that Paul wrote this directly to Timothy, but he understood it was going to be read to the whole church. But what he's saying is, my desire is that you will experience the nearness, the closeness, the here-ness of the Lord in your spirit. There are times when everything around you leaves a strong implication anyway, that you're by yourself. If you're going to do this, it's all about you. And if you don't get her done, it's all because of you. Paul's prayer for Timothy and the church at Ephesus is my prayer for you and for me, that I would experience the withness of the Lord in my spirit, in the deepest part of me, that my essence of who I am will experience, feel, know the withness of the Lord. Well, okay. Next time, we wrap it up. I'll see you then on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.